It is now the Sabbath. The sun has gone down, and they want you to believe that the high priest is doing business in his own living room on the Sabbath. Hey guys, welcome back and thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Today we are going to be wrapping up Matthew's Gospel, the last 5 chapters. And the only thing I want to mention from chapter 24 is that Christians say that Jesus predicted the Second Temple destruction, which is nonsense because Matthew was written after the Second Temple destruction. Okay? They create the illusion that Jesus is talking about this 40 years before the fact. But think about it. Mark's Gospel, the first one written, was written about late 60s AD. The Second Temple was destroyed 70 AD. So he's writing this while these tensions between the Jews and the Romans are going on. The First Roman-Jewish War. So Jesus didn't predict anything. Even if he did, all of his miracles and his predictions don't mean nothing if he's changing the Torah, right? Now, I'm not going to say anything more about chapter 24 and 25 because it's just a bunch of parables. Oh, wait, one more thing. He does mention the abomination of desolation from Daniel chapter 9, which we just talked about in the last video. That would have been a good time for Jesus or the author of Matthew to say, hey, by the way, that's a prediction that tells you the exact date of my death. And they don't because, again, it's just more nonsense. Now, chapter 26, as far as I know, I didn't look to see, but it's got 75 verses in it. It looks like it could be the longest, if not one of the longest chapters in the entire New Testament. And it covers the whole, of course the Jews are still trying to kill Jesus. And we're not going to talk about him being anointed at Bethany because we already covered that in depth, in detail, in some of my other videos. Check out my video about Lazarus and my video about Judas, okay? And we go into detail about all the contradictions and how it's a big manufactured nonsense story. And then, there's contradictions there. Was he betrayed before the Last Supper? Did he betray him afterwards? Did Jesus predict his betrayal before the supper, the middle of the supper? There's all these stupid little contradictions, but those aren't the things that you should be focusing on, whether you're trying to decide whether to follow Jesus or not. The thing that you should be asking yourself is why they're eating bread during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which the Torah says anybody that does this will be cut off from among their people. That's a bad thing to do, is eat bread on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? And they're also drinking Jesus' blood, metaphorically, hypostatically, whatever you want to call it, ritualistically, which again is just more pagan than anything else. We have Jesus telling Peter that before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Okay, and Mark's Gospel, the crow only, he only does that like twice or something like that. So these are contradictions, but they're not the be-all, end-all of why you shouldn't believe in Jesus. Those are just little distractions, icing on the cake. There's bigger reasons why you shouldn't believe in Jesus here. Then he prays at Gethsemane. He goes off a little distance from the other guys, which tells me, well, then how do they know what Jesus prayed? If he was over there and they were sleeping, taking naps, how do they know what Jesus prayed? Anyways. Then they come and arrest him. Did Judas kiss him on the cheek or didn't he? Again, who cares? This one right here, this is one of the biggest ones, is they arrest Jesus and they take him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. Now, what's wrong with this picture? First of all, can you think of any job in the world where after you get done and you clock out for the day and you go home, where you're going to be doing more business off the clock? I don't think so. This is a manufactured, fictional story that never happened. Okay, secondly, it is now the Sabbath. The sun has gone down, and they want you to believe that the high priest is doing business in his own living room on the Sabbath. One of my favorite parts is right here when Jesus is getting arrested. And he says, are you not aware that I can call my Father and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But then how would the scriptures be fulfilled the way it says it must happen this way? So it's got this weird third grade comic book cartoon appeal to it. Here's the other problem for the gospel authors. When Luke tells this story, in chapter 3, verse 2, it mentions during the high priesthood of Annas and Caiaphas. They were not, their priesthoods did not overlap. There were actually three priests in between Annas and Caiaphas. Look this up if you don't believe me. And John's gospel makes up for this. In chapter 18, it says, they brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. So they've kind of tidied up a little bit. And in the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 5, it's that the next day the rulers, elders, this is when Peter's being tried, and the scribes, they assembled in Jerusalem along with Annas, the high priest. And they have Caiaphas as a family member.